My name's Danielle Sasi. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm a U.S. citizen, and I came to Israel with my family for the holidays. We flew out here, my husband, my son, my dad, and my mom. We were supposed to fly back home October 9th. We were invited to the festival by my cousin, Omri. He's one of the producers of the festival. And we all went. My dad, my husband, and I, two of my cousins, their husbands, and a friend from Mexico. We all drove out to the festival together. We arrived there at around 2:30. It was a great evening, beautiful people, great energy, good vibes. At around 6:30 in the morning, I told my dad and our group that it was time to go home. We went to grab our things. The sun came up. Just as it touched the horizon, we heard the music changing. There was good vibes. Everyone started running towards the dance floor. My dad said, "Let's go dance one last time." And we did that. I even remember telling my dad, I said to him, "Thank God I'm married. What is going on over here? How are these people so beautiful? All of them. Everyone you look to the right, to the left, everybody was smiling, dancing. Just the energy of the Israelis. It's a different energy. You don't need to be on any type of drugs or alcohol to feel the vibe over there, the people, everyone smiling, talking to one another. It was just a really great evening. Everyone was camping out there. We go to a lot of festivals, but not one like this. This was my first festival in Israel, at least. And people were welcoming because we didn't know we needed to bring camping gear or anything. So they came, they told us we can leave our stuff with them, and people came up to my dad. He was in a bunch of colors and spoke to him and was like, "What are you doing here?" He's 65 years old, but he's younger than a bunch of all of them put together. And we danced, and it was a wonderful evening. We weren't tired at all. But I promised my mom that I'd be home for my baby. As soon as the sun hit the sky, we would leave and go home. So right at dawn, we started packing up, and we ended up dancing really quick one last time. We were walking already back to our car, and as an American, I said to my dad, "Look, they're fireworks." And immediately his face turned pale. I think we were already in the parking lot, so I'm not sure if it was only us that still recognized what was going on because the music was still playing. We didn't hear any sirens or anything like that, but I remember turning around and the entire sky had rockets. It just looked like a bunch of lines everywhere. It was coming from every direction. I immediately went into full panic mode. We got into the car, and we came in, driving into the party from Netanya. We drove through Ashkelon, and then we drove for maybe 30 minutes on the border of Gaza. So the whole evening, at nighttime when we were driving towards the party, we were terrified and laughing at both, like simultaneously, that we were in Gaza, basically, and where are we, and how did we not know that the party's here? Nobody told us, and we're all tourists, in my car at least. But like, what are the chances that anything would happen, right? So when we left the party, my dad made a left from there. He said, and I was screaming to him, no, don't go that way. That's the way we came in. That's Gaza. And he said to me, "The rockets fly over. The rockets won't go and hit their border or hit their land. So we're good this way." And that's the way we drove. I think he knew something. I don't know, because my dad's really scared of like his shadow even, but when it's time or adrenaline. He drives fast, he doesn't. And so we drove, and then he stopped the car really at the Migunit, at that bus stop looking thing. And I said to him, Dad, continue driving. Let's go. Let's get out of here. What are the chances that a rocket will fall on our car? Let's go. Let's go. And he said no. And so we got out of the car. We go into this shelter, and we're there at 7 o'clock in the morning. There's maybe 2-3 other people there. And from 7 a.m. to about 7:49 a.m., I was in full panic mode. I didn't see who came in, who left, but people were coming and leaving and coming and leaving. They said that there were terrorists on the street, that people are shooting their cars. My cousin from a different car is calling me, telling me that they're shooting their car. And the entire time I'm dying to get out of there and leave and leave and leave. Everyone was telling me, you're just an American, don't worry, this is like, we're used to this, you're safe here. And I was not having it. My intuition was saying, go, go, go. When time got closer, at one point, my dad told me where to stand. He told all of us where to stand in the Migunit, at the first to the left corner of it. He said that when they come in, they'll shoot this way and not to the left. So that's where we were, the 4 of us. And then we heard shooting on the outside. And our friend Alex, look, he's from Canada, living in Mexico. We were here also for the holidays. He spoke 7 languages, and he was very loud. He moved away from us, and I heard him in like the hallway, speaking to them, fighting with them, saying khalas and more Arabic, and then it started. That's when everyone had already run in, because you heard them shooting from coming closer and closer. And at one point he went out there and they stopped shooting. I don't really know, but I heard him, and then I didn't hear him, and then it all began. They were shooting inside. They threw 2 grenades. At one point, I'm sitting on top of a girl. My husband's on top of me, trying to protect me. At this point, I don't even know where my dad is. Everyone just pushed inwards, so it was really chaotic. It's also very small, so I don't know exactly what happened there, but I couldn't breathe. I took a really large inhale. I got hit in the leg, but I was shot, and I felt heat. And I told my husband, I'm shot. He said, you're fine, you're okay. It felt like a smoke bomb again. It was just like all this shooting, all this noise, and then as if they left. And I remember pushing my husband off of me. He was screaming that they're killing us, and we're going to die. And I just like brought him to me. I asked him to stop talking, to be collected, we're gonna be okay. And I just started telling everybody to put bodies on them, because once that silence of 2 seconds happened, I like looked around, and everyone was standing at one point, and then everyone, before the shooting, before the explosion, everyone was up and moving, and then everyone was just on the floor. I don't think I really understood what was happening. I think something, a higher power, my dad, God, an angel, I don't know, everything in me just is not who I usually am, because I was in full panic mode before, and then I just collected myself. We moved bodies. I laid underneath. I was in the middle. Put bodies on me, and I called out for my dad. I told him, Abba, I'm shot. Abba, Abba. He didn't answer. So I knew he was no longer with me. So I told my husband to go to him to see if there's any way to save him, and because we couldn't speak at one point, we had to stay quiet. He did this to me with his hands on his heart, and I stopped feeling. I didn't feel heat anymore. I went numb and quiet. I didn't cry. There was no time to do so. And he went to sit with Lee. Lee, my cousin, was in the corner. She stayed in that corner where my dad told us to stay. I don't know. I was moved, but she stayed there. So my husband went to sit next to her, and they just started coming back and back. It was I started counting seconds in between each explosion. I counted 8 grenades, roughly between 30 to like 40 minutes between each grenade, and between each time they came back. We kept counting. I kept counting. I took off all my jewelry. I did things that I have no idea why I did them. Everybody in there, I thought we were only like a few people alive, thank God. I mean, I guess you say thank God that out of 40 people in there, 11 of us came out of there alive. I had no idea. I thought it was like the 4 of us or 5 of us alive at the time. Towards the end, something huge. I was underneath so many bodies, but something huge fell or hit us from the outside. I'm not really sure, but it literally took all of us up and back down. It was the loudest explosion, more than a grenade, more than anything else that was hitting us at the time. My husband and I kept doing signals with our hands that we're okay. After every explosion, I also would check to see if like my body was intact, if anything else is, my leggings from the heat of something melted off my knees. And after that really loud explosion, I remember looking up and I saw that piece of the ceiling of the concrete was starting to crumble, and I was thinking to myself, if anything else hits this migunit, we're gonna die for sure from all the concrete. So at one point I even went underneath with my head, because my head was protected with bodies, but like my forehead wasn't, and the top of my head wasn't. And so at one point I just really went underneath. I couldn't breathe. And then they came again. And when they came again, you hear them on the cars, on motorcycles, on ATVs. I don't even know that they came again. And we like all got prepared, because once you hear them, you start moving, and you go and you play dead. And my dad's car, the siren of his car, the alarm starts going off, and you hear them blowing up the car with millions of bullets. They're fighting with one another, and the car does not stop. The siren keeps going. And at one point, I'm closing my ears, I'm closing my eyes. That's what I did the whole time, counting as well. But I started smiling. I'm like, this is my dad driving them crazy for sure. This is my dad's car. There were millions of cars out there, but it was my dad's car, and he's driving them insane. They literally shot the car, did everything, fighting with one another, got back on their motorcycle and left. They didn't throw anything else. I want to say like it was silent. I remember counting again, and I got to like 1,200, and then I felt tired. I felt like I was falling asleep, and I was thinking to myself, is this death? Am I dying now? My brain started going scary places. Like all my senses started to work at the last hour. All of a sudden, I can smell. Like my brain was reconnecting back to my body. I was smelling. I had to pee. I was thirsty. Things that none of that was working for the first 6 hours. My husband is telling us that he's going to go to the car. We had a 6-pack of water in there. So he's telling us in the migunit that he's going to go out to get water. And I looked at him, and with my eyes, I dared him. I said, do not go out there. Don't go out there. And my cousin's pulling him. My cousin Lee said to him, I'll give you saliva. Stay here. Do not go. He said, what if there's a weapon out there? And I was just shaking my head. I was shaking my head. One of the kids that was with me in there, he moved to like the left corner of where we were at that point. I guess now we are turned around, so if you walk in, it's the right corner. It's the side where everyone died there. And I kept shaking my head to him, no, 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 go back, go back, go back, go back. It felt like he was giving up, and it made me really sad. But thank God I think the army came first. Somebody came and asked if there were anyone alive in here. Nobody replied. We didn't say a word. I was holding my breath so that the hair on top of the body of me wouldn't move. And then the words, Abba, or the words, Nitzan, it's Abba, are you in here? We again didn't move until she replied back, Abba, and knew that that was her dad. It was like The Walking Dead. It was like Universal Studios backlot. You just see bodies underneath bodies that are getting up, that are about to leave. We're climbing on other bodies to get out of this tiny little box. Everyone's stuck and on top of one another. And when I got out, I saw my friend's arm. He had a sleeve tattoo. It was just the arm. My husband didn't let me see anything. He closed my eyes. He said, don't open your eyes. I got you. Just get out of here. And so when we got out, I opened my eyes really at the very end, and that's what I saw. I got outside, and this road that we drove on 7 hours before that had grass and trees and greenery and agriculture was just a fire zone. It was all black and fire and flames and smoke, and I didn't know there was more to safety. I thought that it was just done. I thought maybe they captured all the terrorists. I didn't really know what was happening. I got undressed. I couldn't be in the clothes that I was in. I was filled with blood. I had blood from head to toe, body parts, guts, everything was on us. And he told me, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said to him, if I'm going to die, I'd rather die without all of this blood on me. And that's how I got into the car. My husband helped, the army, everyone helped to bring everybody on. They gave us water. And then we drove back on that byway towards the party, towards safety, we call it. We sat in the back of his Dodge Ram. He said to us, don't look, don't look. And I couldn't not look. It was, again, like a Universal Studio movie. Like when they show you how to do movies, like effects, that's what like I couldn't believe that that's what I was seeing. There were burnt cars, there were bodies, there were cars that weren't burnt, that were cut in half here, half there. Piles of bodies, literally. I'm in a big Dodge Ram. I'm looking out the window to my right, and I see piles of bodies in flames. And it's high, it's a high truck, so that's how high we just kept driving. And then we got to the gas station. The kid that moved to that corner, he was the first person I saw when I got out of the car. I hugged him as if it was my dad. I hugged him with my whole life. I told him that I was really upset with him. I said to him, it's not okay that you did that. You shouldn't have moved. And we couldn't really speak. It was just not real, but that's what I said to him. I said, I'm really upset with you, as if I know him or anything. But later we laughed about it, however much we can laugh. That was Ben. Yeah.
So, you didn't know the people, you knew the 4 people you were with.
Correct.
When you went into the Maguni.
Yes.
And then you went through this absolute nightmare with all of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, once you got to know them, in retrospect, could you talk about whatever you know about Ben and also about Lotan and Mai, who I gather, Lotan, you were closest to them?
Yes, of course. So Ben, I didn't see him there until the very end, until he moved. Lotan, his beautiful soul, he was the body on top of me. He actually protected me. My husband put him on top of me. He's a really big guy. He was on top of me for the entire 7 hours. I held his hand because I was scared. My husband already went to check on my dad. It was in the very beginning, so he didn't make it back to be with me, and I was terrified. I just held his hand. I kept saying thank you to him thank you for shielding me, thank you for protecting me, and that I'm sorry. And I didn't cry though. I didn't have like time in there to feel sorry for myself or for what's going on. I just remember thanking him. Um, I guess I was the last person to touch him, to hold him. He was on top of my entire body. We saw a photo of her later and I recognized her from inside, but again, I didn't know names. I couldn't say who was who. And everybody else that wasn't on that wall of safety, I call it, they're there in my mind. I tried to look at the list of deceased to see who I recognized and who I didn't. There was a beautiful girl with big blonde braids. She was one of the faces I did notice when she walked in. She was very tall, gorgeous. And when I left the Megunita, I actually saw her. And she wasn't alive, but it's very bits and pieces. I understand that a lot of people knew one of the other from in there. Not necessarily that they went to the party together, but either they know each other from school or from friends of friends. And I unfortunately didn't have that pleasure of knowing everybody. But later, it's like connecting a puzzle. My husband has a complete different side to his story from where he was sitting. My cousin the same. It's just been like it's this tiny little box, so you can it doesn't make sense how everybody has different outlook at what happened there. But then again, we all went through something completely different but the same and horrific at the same level. It's like Americans are known to be dramatic and over-exaggerate and do all of this, extra. And when I was sharing the story with my husband's sister, she asked me, she said, "Are you being dramatic right now?" And at that very point, I understood that nobody ever will really understand what happened there. It's like a over-dramatic story that's real. It's so real that it doesn't sound real, if that makes sense. It was over. There are no horror movies that can express a group of 3,500 people going to a music festival to enjoy music, and then being attacked by terrorists. It wasn't a terror attack in a bus or a terror attack, not that that's okay, but it wasn't in a bus or at the mall or in a hotel. This was a nature party, a peace festival, where we were attacked by 1,500 terrorists who came to literally murder everybody. It was a massacre. People from the States say, "What a war." And I look at them and I say, "What war?" A war is when two armies come and fight towards one another, when both sides have weapons and both sides have, military clothing. They have been trained. This wasn't war. This was a group of demons. I don't even know. You can't even call them animals because animals you can tame. There's animals in circus. These are not human. They're terrorists who came to murder everybody. I keep saying, thank you to God that I'm alive. Thank you to this Megunit that kept me alive. Thank you to Rotan's body who saved me. But they murdered me too. I will never be the same. I'm breathing. My son, thank God, has a mom and a dad. But my soul was murdered. My eyes were raped. My life was vandalized. I don't think we can ever go back from that. People ask me how I sleep at night. And I tell him I sleep well. But it's a daytime. It's when you have to open your eyes and live every single day with all of those faces and all the sounds and the smell, and it's things that don't go away. And it's all the aftermath after that as well. They couldn't find my dad's body for 9 days. A lot of people from my Migunit already, their family put their bodies to rest and were able to kind of get things going and done. And we just day by day by day waited for my dad's body to be identified. And so we ended up staying here for 2 months from our beautiful family vacation that ended up in the worst way possible. And I think that that's all that there's. I mean, not that it's all. It's, again, it sounds, when I speak of it, I say it doesn't sound real. Like sometimes when I speak about it, I like, wait, is that real? Yeah, yes, it's real. That's what happened. That's how it happened. A total of 8 grenades, an RPG, a rocket, a lot of Arabic, like scary words that you hear in the movies, at least for me. I'm not from here. I didn't do the army, never been prepared or trained how to do a tourniquet. My husband threw at one point fabric so I can tie my leg, and I remember pulling it out, and I'm like, wait, do I tie from the top? Do I tie from the bottom? And I was overthinking it too long. I threw the fabric away. I was like, whatever, let it bleed, put my leg back in. So it's just, it's not, I say like I'm American, but I come to Israel every year, and I love this country, and I love the people and the energy and everything about Israel. But I've never seen a rocket. I've never heard a siren. I'm 32 years old, and I got hit with all of it in like 45 minutes. And it was terrifying.
Listen, you speak remarkably well.
Thank you.
Last thought really is, people who came away from that, who are Israeli, are living in amongst the collective trauma and horror, and you had to go back to America. What was it like trying to go back to some kind of, I suppose, normality is not the right word, but going back to your home, which is far away from the trauma the collective trauma here?
We live in a bubble in America. We live in a society that we watch TikTok for news, and we watch Instagram for brainwashing. Nobody knows anything. You just do as you're told. And I also live in Los Angeles. So if America is a bubble, Los Angeles is a bubble within America's bubble. So when I landed, I was in a wheelchair, and the woman that was taking me towards our luggage, we just had some small talk, and she asked me what was wrong. So I shared with her that I was in Israel, and I was in the terror attack at a party, and that my dad was murdered, and he was shot, and her facial expression just went to like, what are you saying? Like, what is wrong with you? What are you? She even said, wait, what? And I said, yeah, there's a war in the Middle East. Do you know Israel? And she said, oh, I read something. I didn't know if it was true or not. And at that very point, I said, never mind, because I'm in shock that this is the world we live in. This is something in 2023, instead of having flying cars and every religion or country to itself and people just doing their own, and we are living in like a world of people saying it never happened. It's just crazy. It's like a friend of mine told me that her neighbor told her that it never happened, and that we put up green screens. I don't know what that meant, but that we put green screens and we made it all up. And when I heard that, I just think, like, how bored do people think people are? to do something like that. It's like life goes on there. It's very fast in LA. Everyone's waking up, going to make money, coming back, spending it on cars and Rolexes and stuff that make no change or difference in the world. And nobody believes that it happens. You just have rallies at universities, at UCLA, at USC, like at campuses that mean something, at least in America. It's a shame, I believe. I don't think it has anything to do with the land of Israel. Everyone's writing Free Palestine. It's not about Palestine. It's about a massacre. And they can't highlight on our highlights. You can't mix two things together. There's Free Palestine, sure, on any other given day. We can talk about that. But this isn't about Free Palestine. They don't want our land. They want us dead. They don't want Jews. They don't want Jerusalem. They want Jews to not exist. That is what they want. That's what I believe they want. I don't go into politics with people ever. I don't... I posted my story online on Instagram. I used to be private, and everyone was telling me that I have to have my story get out there, and so I made it public. And with the public come and start sending comments and sending their thoughts, and I don't respond in, oh, let's go after everyone. I think what's happening in the world, in every country, in every genocide that's happening, is inhumane. That needs to stop. I don't think that we can continue in this world of let's kill and kill and kill, but in the same breath. They murdered everybody that night. A lot of people, and not in a shooting way, in brutality, and I don't even know how a human brain can function and do the things that they did. We went to the festival that night, 7 of my family members, and we came back 3. People went with their friends and a group of friends, and they came back with 1. That's not normal. I don't think that's right, or that it has any part in today's society. And I also think that people need to start reading, some history books, because TikTok is not the news, and Instagram and everything else that people watch, and Snapchat and all this nonsense. It's petty. It just shows how small your brains are, if that's what you believe. So going back home has been like a real slap to the face, but I'm not scared.
One question I didn't answer, sorry.
It's okay.
I promise you this is the last.
No, that's okay.
When did you discover that your personal nightmare was part of a much bigger nightmare, a national nightmare, where it wasn't just attacking you, all of a sudden this was happening all over the South? It involved thousands of people.
I'll tell you, when we got to safety at that gas station that I told you about, they took us in an ambulance to a nearby hospital in Beersheba. When I was brought in there on my bed, I realized that there were a lot of people there, and there was a lot of blood there, and people with missing limbs, and people are screaming and yelling. And they came to see me, and they did CT scans on me, and they saw that I had shrapnel in all of my lungs. They didn't understand where I was hit. They saw that I had a bullet in my leg. And it was only Sunday morning, following day, when the doctors came in, and he said, you can live with the bullet in your leg. Wash it with soap and water. I understood that there is that there's chaos, that a lot of people are either dead or on 10% of life. I understood that something really, 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 really big happened that night or day. I understood that I need to get out of that hospital, that they don't have time for me, and I can live with a bullet in my leg, and I will survive with people keep asking me, how's your leg? And I'm like, it just feels like a splinter.
You still have the bullet in your leg?
No, thank God. I made it back to this Netanya. I went to a nearby hospital. There were also people there from the party. It just was an overload chaos that night. Saturday night, they put me to sleep in the ear, nose, and eye department. They didn't have space for anybody, and you just see more and more and more young people coming in, and I don't really know. They, they connected us to all sorts of things. Today I'm fine. My leg is here, thank God. It's literally a splinter in my thumb compared to what happened there, and it was big. It was very big. They killed everybody, even those that are breathing and alive today, even those not from the festival homes. It's just, I'm driving here from place to place, and you just see everybody crying. People alone in their cars crying, people on the sidewalk crying. It's like the whole Israel that I love, that I feel like it just went like numb. It's just very sad now to be here. Although my dad was my universe and my best friend, and I know life with him will never be the same without him there, but it's more than that. It's all the kids, it's the entire country. The entire country was affected by this. And I think that it shouldn't have happened. I think that there were 7 hours inside of that megunit. I kept saying, you're in Israel, they're going to come save you. There's no way you're dying here. There's no way you're dying here. But after hour and hour and hour and hours going by, you start thinking, wait, did they get everybody? Is this like the end of the world? Is this Israel not going to be a part of Israel anymore? Like, where is everybody? And they killed everybody there too. They killed the army around where the party was. They killed the police station that was around the party. They knew what they were doing. And I think that they came in that night not knowing about the festival. I think they really came in and it was like a pocket of gold to them. I don't think they knew what was happening. And a part of me even says, maybe it's okay that the party was there, because if not, then we would have 1,500 terrorists scattered all over Israel, and not sidetracked by the party. But I believe that with everything that we do have our God, and that He does love us. And maybe this was just something that needed to happen so that a bigger, better purpose or something better will happen from this. I don't believe that it was just a massacre for no reason. I truly hope for peace. And that it sounds maybe selfish, but we just need to worry about us. We have this tiny little land in the entire world. Tiny, tiny little, smaller than New Jersey. And we just need to protect it and everybody in it.